Worlds 2023 saw all Korean teams knocked out besides the plot armored team T1. All that remains is now BLG, Weibo, JDG, and T1 for the semifinals. Here I'm going to analyze the semifinals matchup between JDG and T1. We'll go over scenarios in which each team can win by gameplay and draft, as well as player matchups for each role. Let's talk about the win condition. First, let's discuss how T1 can win this matchup through gameplay. There's one thing to know about T1. They play speed chess while everyone else plays regular chess, and LEC plays checkers. Okay, you know I had to get one jab in there. T1 is Hikaru Nakamura, and JDG can be Magnus Carlsen in this scenario. The way that T1 wins is by speed and making their opponent stumble as play after play unfolds and happens on the map. In this play here of T1 versus LNG, game 3 of the quarterfinals at 1540, Faker ganks top as Zeus is pushing into LNG's tier 2. They kill Zika, and then Faker and Zeus start channeling recalls. Then Faker decides to stop his recall as he notices a flank opportunity on Scout pushing bot at their tier 1 turret. Faker TPs to a flank ward, and as Zeus completes his recall to buy Manamune, he TPs immediately on the flank ward. Meanwhile, Owner is making his way bot, fighting Tarzan in LNG's jungle behind the Drake pit, chasing him all the way down to bot tier 1 turret. Both T1 solar laners show up and they dive Scout and Tarzan to get a 2-for-1, and realistically, Faker probably should have lived in this play to make it a 2-for-0. It's cross-map plays like this that show how quick T1 are at thinking, but it doesn't stop there. T1 keep the momentum going in this game. At 17-15, T1 used 2 members to get Drake. Meanwhile, LNG think that topside has less members, so they try to gank Zeus, but the rest of T1 are already there. LNG funnel all into a choke point, which allows Renata to ult and let Faker deal massive damage. Meanwhile, Owner and Gumayushi finish Drake, and then immediately pings go out to push mid lane. Owner uses Herald and begins pushing, while the rest of T1 make sure that LNG cannot go back to base easily. T1 get mid tier 1, tier 2, and a charge on tier 3, along with getting that kill in topside and the Hextech Drake soul point. This just shows how good T1 are at snowballing objectives and snowballing plays on the map to do cross map plays, and this is actually their biggest strength. Now let's draw some attention to how T1 set up their jungler to dominate the early game. In this game here of LNG versus T1 game 2, at 0:45, T1 invade near red buff. Faker drops a ward at around 120, and Scout sees it and does the same. This still helps Owner as he full clears his own top side, and then he meanders over to steal Tarzan's blue and Gromp. This snowballs Owner to always stay ahead of Tarzan, and even helps them get the first Drake later on. T1 are merciless when it comes to cross map plays, and their ability to keep hitting you over and over again. It's also brought on by their ability to use TP properly, and they are the best team in the tournament at TP usage. To counter JDG, they need to keep in mind cross-map plays to break up JDG's best-in-class team fighting, TP usage to make brief 5v4s, warding level 1 strategies for Owner to dominate the jungle. This is T1's playstyle and how they'll try to win this matchup against JDG. JDG are the best in the tournament at team fighting. Their raw mechanical ability is off the charts, and they have the best ADC in the world in Ruler. So it's no wonder they always rely on team fighting to win games. But it's not just team fighting that JDG are good at. particularly its initiations and flanking, which separates them from every other team. A great example of JDG's willingness to skirmish is in this fight here of JDG versus KT Game 3 of the quarterfinals at 17:45. KT are running away because Kian is splitting from the rest of his team in bot lane. JDG then use Sivir ult and immediately collapse onto the opportune 5v4 situation. Kanavi initiates with his ult onto BDD, but then he's ulted backwards by the Azir ult. He flashes back to then reinitiate, and then Missing also follows up with his ultimate and tags 2 members of KT. JDG chased them through the jungle to get 2 kills for 0 and Drake afterwards. This shows their awareness of initiation is just truly what separates them from everyone else when it comes to team fighting. But it's not only that. They're also ridiculously good at flanking. In Game 3 of JDG versus KT at 22:45, both teams are posturing for Drake. 369 has a clear flank angle as he's in mid pathing behind Wolves. The brilliance of this play is that Knight TPs to the bot wave, which is right behind the Gromp area. Missing immediately flash engages onto 2 KT members. They all funnel back down to the tri-bush, and Knight comes in from the side and ults aiming, and he doesn't even use flash because he knows there's nowhere to flash to. JDG get a 4 for 0, and this is the game-winning play that puts JDG way ahead to win this game. To counter T1, JDG must play through bot lane. This will allow Drake control and, more importantly, force T1 to fight them into demarcated front to back style, which JDG are superior at. If they can then gather Drakes early to force the issue later, that will then bring the 5v5 where JDG excels at. Prevent T1 from early invades for vision, and don't greed for plays when playing against T1. T1 punish greedy plays heavily with cross-map pressure. This is how JDG will win against T1. Alright, so before we get into the draft of these two teams, y'all should subscribe. Real quick, on this channel I do pro game analysis, documentaries, interviews, and I mostly cover the LCS. So make sure to subscribe to support me in creating future content. Thanks, and let's get back to the draft of T1 and JDG. Quite simply, T1's drafting has been fantastic this tournament. T1 might have the advantage in draft due to surprise, and there's a couple cards they can play due to some large champion pools. Senna and Tom Kench were originally pulled out by NRG, so LCS fans, I guess you're still here in spirit. This duo looks incredibly strong, and what's even more deadly is that Keria is able to play Senna as a flex pick, with Gumayushi also picking Neela. So that's something JDG need to consider later on. Keria is the best Renata in the world. If you can pick it, do it. She's so good in the meta right now, which is bruisers top and bruisers in jungle. With so many melee champions, Renata thrives on countering engage comps and melee comps. She is the best disengaged champion in the game. If Keria can get his hands on her, T1 have a massive draft advantage. For anti-stratting in the draft, I recommend T1 should look to ban Missing's Rakan because that's his best champion by far. He's too good at setting up engages, and he can even do flanks. It's best to not give him Rakan at all. 369's Aatrox looks absolutely terrifying. He dismantled KT Rolster with this pick, and can you believe that he has a 80% career win rate record on this champion? It's absolutely bonkers. This could be a good second round ban phase champion for T1. The good thing for JDG this tournament is that there are so many power picks that they don't really need to branch out or do anything cute in draft like T1 does. So here's what they should focus on. Xayah is definitely still first pick priority. It doesn't matter what else happens in the draft. If Ruler can get Xayah, JDG are sitting pretty, as the only thing worse than facing Ruler in team fights is facing an unkillable Ruler in team fights due to Xayah's ultimate. Prioritize Orianna. Knight's Orianna is so good this tournament, and it works very well with JDG's overall game plan, which is constant, hard engaged team fighting. If they can fit Orianna in there for Knight, it enhances all of JDG's strengths. Prioritize Rakan. Missing is like another player on this champion. I would actually say that his Rakan reminds me of Mad Life's Thresh. Like, this is the level that he's on with this champion. He can engage, flank, and keep his ADC safe. There's nothing that this guy can't do when he's on this champion. Prioritize this above all other picks besides Xayah. For anti-stratting in the draft, I only recommend one thing, which is pinch Faker's champion pool. He's only played 3 champions this entire tournament: Azir, Orianna, and Sylas. If you can ban Azir and take away his Orianna on blue side, he has to go on to Sylas, which his Sylas really hasn't looked that great at all. Or you ban his Sylas as well in the second ban phase, and now he has to show something new. Also, keep in mind that if Faker is still quasi-injured with his hand, he most likely will not be trying to practice new champions. So if you're JDG, use this to your advantage. For player matchups, 369 versus Zeus. I'm gonna give this to 369 because I think he's a much more versatile player. He can play tanks, front to back, and flank better than Zeus. Zeus is still very much that aggro player, and 369 has been playing very calm, cool, and collected in the top lane this tournament. Kanavi versus Owner. I'm going to give this to Kanavi. Now, it may seem weird because Owner dominated in his last series, but it really does depend on which Owner shows up. Is it the Owner that ints into the enemy, or is it the Owner that gets vision help from his team and can make an educated and calculated aggressive play early on, followed up by his solo laners roaming or TPing? Kanavi has been great all around and has shown a multitude of styles that I don't think he has really much of a problem or a crutch as far as his team members are concerned that Owner has. Knight versus Faker. Knight has shown some more champion diversity, and he's just a better investment as well too as a player in terms of resources, as we've seen Kanavi gank his lane several times at Worlds. So I'm going to give this to Kanavi. Faker, I still have questions about on if he can perform on picks other than Azir or Orianna. He clearly still has a good macro sense, and to some Reddit fans, his micro is just still insane. But in reality, he hasn't done anything special this tournament, so Knight has the upper hand here. Gumayusi versus Ruler. I'm gonna hard give this to Ruler. I mean, do I need to say more? Ruler is the best ADC in the world. I'm comfortable with saying he's actually the greatest team fighting ADC of all time. Now, that's not to say that Gumayusi is bad at all, but he is much more inconsistent than Ruler is. Missing versus Keria. I'm gonna give this one to Keria. The one thing to balance out the bot lane is Keria. I mean, he's such a versatile support, able to play Senna, Tahm Kench, Ashe support, the best Renata in the world. Keria is the secret sauce to T1, and Missing, on the other hand, is the opposite. He's great on engaged champions, and if T1 prevent him from getting Rakan, he looks like an average player. So in summary, T1 play a cross-map playstyle looking to pull you apart, which is what they learned from Gen G. JDG are a team fighting and flanking team. Watch out for the level 1 wards this series to see if Owner can get that advantage. In the draft, watch for Missing's Rakan, Karia's Renata, and if JDG want to pinch Faker's pool. Thanks for watching and enjoy the World's 2023 semifinals. Peace.